Good afternoon, everybody. Tom Stabulis with True North Group here for our Tuesday Facebook Live and with the Virginia SBDC. So today we're going to talk about business continuity. And last week we spoke about disaster recovery, and which is, what will your organization do in the event of an unexpected situation? And in IT, that could be a breach. It could be somebody clicks on a phishing email and it opens up a virus or malware, and it's running rampant through your network, and you're trying to figure out how you can address this to get back on. Now, business continuity is a little bit more involved. And so a story from my own personal life was that about 4 years ago, I was traveling to Austin, Texas for a conference. And I got there, and the next morning I get a phone call from my daughter, who was watching my dog while I was at the conference, crying because the dishwasher had the water line broke, and overnight it flooded, and she woke up to a huge crash. And when she went down into the basement, she found that the entire basement, the ceiling had collapsed. The kitchen was wrecked. Well, in a personal situation like that, of course, you reach out to your insurance agent, and you can't live in the house, right? So your entire normal routine is now messed up. And we ended up moving into a Residence Inn. It was only supposed to be for about a month or 45 days. It ended up being almost 5 months before we could move back into the house. That's what business continuity was, because you couldn't live in the house. Where do you go? You've got to be able to still live your life, whether you have your children, pets, getting to work, all of those things. You want to be able to continue to do that in the event that you have some type of disaster. Now, in our businesses, it's the same thing. Now, some of it we talk about, some of it we may be aware about it, and some of it we may even have insurance coverage for. So if you're building, if you're running an office and your building is flooded, or your building, and it doesn't even have to be your fault. It could be, you could be in a multi-level building. The tenant above you has a fire. Well, we all know water follows gravity, which means that if the tenant above you, if they don't have the right floors and the separations and wait for the water to go, the water always finds a way to get to its destination. And that could mean that you are now not able to bring your employees to work and perform your job and run your business. Well, you can't shut your business down for 2 months, all right, or 3 months while repairs are being made, whether it's to your facility or to another tenant. So you have to have these plans in place. Where are you going to go if your building becomes uninhabitable, all right? Or if you have a fire and all of your systems are completely destroyed. That's where we talk about backups, all right? Now, you've been doing your backups diligently. You have everything you need to restore, but what do you restore it to? If you don't have the computers, or if you don't have the servers or available, then having that backup really doesn't provide you any value to get you back up and running. So when you think about business continuity, you actually have to look at it as like you're starting your business for the first time. What are you going to need to open your doors to the public on that first day? How many desks are you going to need? How many desktops, laptops? Do you have a server? Your firewalls, your internet connection? Do you have a space? Is there any space that you could potentially lease? Do you have a relationship with a real estate agent, a commercial real estate agent, where they track spaces for you, so that if you had this, you'd be able to pivot and get find a new space? Now, insurance companies in general, from my understanding with the commercial side, is, if you have coverage, they're going to give you a check. and they're going to give you a check for whatever your coverage is, but it's going to be your responsibility to spend that check appropriately. So if you need to move into a temporary location, most insurance companies are not going to plan that for you. You're going to have to plan for that. That's why it's also important that if you have, insurance to protect your office, your equipment, things like that. Do you have cyber insurance? If you were hit with some type of ransomware, are you going to be able to move on, to be able to continue to do your business while you're trying to figure out, how to resolve that? And a perfect example is the one that you may or may not be aware of, but Colonial Pipelines was hit, which is the pipeline that provides a majority of fuel for the East Coast. And it comes from Texas, and it runs all the way up the East Coast. And I think it stops somewhere in New Jersey. And then there are different locations where the fuel goes, and then of course it's distributed. They suffered a ransomware a few days ago. And based off of the reading, it doesn't look like they're going to pay the ransom. So they are in the process of trying to restore all of their stuff, but they had to shut down. So the pipeline's been shut down. The East Coast is going to start experiencing potentially shortages in fuel. There's already panic in North Carolina because there's, people are on Twitter and social media talking about how there's lines at the fuel, and people are getting nervous and they're starting to hoard fuel. And you know what? That's unfortunately human nature, because, the first thing I read was people need to stay calm, because if they don't stay calm, they're going to create a panic. If they create a panic, they're going to make the situation actually worse, because they're going to start buying the fuel, and then there won't be any fuel for an extended period of time while Colonial is trying to stand this up. But that's another thing with Colonial. They didn't have, and I don't have all the details, but it would be a good guess to say that they don't have a business continuity plan, because they literally had to shut down their pipeline. And in a critical infrastructure, which gas is, I'm not even sure how this happened, because they have some really stringent controls that prevent or should prevent this type of event from occurring. So I'm sure all that will pan out, but basically they're still in disaster recovery because their systems are down and they are trying to react to the disaster. They didn't have a business continuity plan in place for this type of situation, where they would be able to say, okay, while we are trying to figure out what we need to do with our main systems, fuel still needs to continue to flow. Well, that's not happening right now. Hopefully, and it does have, the White House is aware of it, and the Biden administration is, is doing or helping, I'm sure, wherever they can by providing the resources, because this could create a tremendous impact to the entire East Coast for fuel. And as we get into the summer seasons, prices are going to go up. It's just going to create, just coming out of the pandemic, it's one thing we don't really need. So it's really important, regardless of whether you're a small business with 4 or 5 employees, these 4 and 5 employees and your customers or your clients or your patients or whatever you're doing are relying on you to be there for them when they need you. So if you're a doctor and you have patients that are coming in to see you, or they have surgeries coming up, and they've been waiting, they're expecting you to be available when these surgeries occur. So all of us as small business owners have a responsibility to ensure that not only can we react to a disaster, but that we have some types of plans in place to continue our operations in the event that our main facility becomes damaged to the point where we're not allowed to go into it because it needs extensive repairs. It's not something that's rocket science. It's really just sitting down with a notepad, maybe with a colleague. It could be someone in the same industry with you. It could be one of your employees, and kind of walking out and say, if this building wasn't here today, all right, if we came back tomorrow, what would we need? Who would we need to call? And how would we coordinate to get another facility so that we could stand up our operations and continue to serve our clients? So we have the ability here at the SBDC to have those conversations with you. If this is something that wasn't a concern, but is a concern now, we'd be happy to sit down with you, kind of walk through, get an understanding of your environment, and just help you determine who you need to talk to ensure that you have the proper business continuity plans in place to keep your business running. So once again, thank you very much, everybody. We hope you have a great Tuesday. I hope you took something from this. And as I said, if you want to click the link in the show notes, we'll be able to set you up with one of our advisors. Have a great day.